can fluctuate. But this is also something that could be applied to you no matter where you are. This is not just something that's Washington, D.C. based only. Right. So for starters, when you are expecting a package or you have one on the way, the number one thing would be once that package is delivered, how quickly can I remove it off my front porch? So that way it's not sitting out in the public eye for too long, especially if you have a house that, your porch faces out to a road and anything along those lines. So you want to keep in mind, okay, package was delivered, how soon before I go grab it? So that way it's not in the plain sight of the public or it's not left out there for anybody to get any ideas. The second thing would be to sign up for any sort of delivery alerts that are offered by that particular carrier. So that way, throughout the day or leading up to, you can receive the proper notifications about your package status, whether it's going to be on time, delayed. You can also get that alert that alert once it is delivered. But speaking on that, I will say when using these alerts to also be cautious because there are times where you get spam or fraudulent delivery alerts saying that, hey, your package was delayed, please click this link to follow up and get more information. Now, if you know that you did not sign up for any delivery alerts, then of course I would not look to click that link or do anything with that. And I also say this from experience. There are times throughout the year where I've gotten text message alerts saying that my package was delayed from FedEx or the postal service. And in my mind, I said, well, I haven't ordered anything. So this is definitely not a legit alert. This is a fraudulent alert. And many of times they'll come from an email or what looks like to be an international number. So I do want to put that out there that when it comes to delivery alerts, unless you signed up to receive those alerts, be extremely cautious of any random text message alerts that you might get, especially knowing that you didn't order anything recently or you aren't expecting anything. And for our third step is requiring a signature. Now, this is sometimes a little bit more challenging to do when we order off of Amazon. But when you use the traditional carriers, UPS or FedEx or Postal Service, you can be provided the option for your package to require a signature. So, of course, that's a method and that's a way to ensure that you get what you ordered. This is also a good method to use for any high value items that you may have ordered and plan on having them shipped. And then for our fourth tip, when it comes to packages that are ordered through Amazon, many places offer these secure lockers. So here in Washington, D.C., all 7 of our police stations have these secure drop lockers. And I know that in some places inside of a Whole Foods or a 7-Eleven, you could also use the lockers to have your packages sent to. And that's also something helpful because you can make sure that, okay, it might be delivered on a day at a time where I'll be working late or I'll be out, fairly busy. And that can ensure that, you still get everything that you paid for and you don't have to worry about any interruptions with receiving your items. And the last thing would be is, it's always good if you have a Ring doorbell camera or any other type of doorbell camera or any cameras on your property or where you may reside. So that way, that's an additional way to monitor and see when something get drops off. You can also see if somebody tries to approach and potentially take your package as well. And one of the additional tips that I didn't list was, talking to a neighbor or, other family member or a friend. If something does happen to get delivered earlier than expected, if you have somebody, that lives next door, that's home and they can go grab the package for you and hold it securely, that's also another step that can be taken if you have good neighbors that you have relationships with. So this is then going to lead us into our next area of focus when it comes to that in-person shopping. And a lot of the tips that's going to be shared here don't just apply to in-person shopping. These are tips that could, be applied all throughout the year or really in any safety aspect overall. And one of the biggest things, and this first one was something that I touched on when I did this last year, was the focus and being aware of your surroundings. The context that I used it in prior was, if you're coming home at a particular time, or if you're going out at a particular time, parking in the well-lit areas. And that's something that can be easily interchangeable when it comes to holiday time shopping, especially since it does get dark, this time of year extremely early. You look out about 4:30, and that sun is already set. And so being that it gets darker a lot earlier, wanting to be mindful of my surroundings. If I'm going to be running errands a little bit later into the evening, making sure that I'm in a well-traveled area, I'm parking in an area that's well lit. I'm taking a quick scope around before I get settled to get out the car and everything along those lines, just to have an extra layer of focus and awareness. And another would be, you know, what do I have on me, right? If I'm going out, if I'm doing shopping in person or have a lot to take care of, I don't want to be pulling out a whole bunch of cash and things along those lines. Or if I know I have cash, is it secure in my bag or wallet, etc. Right? I don't want it to, fall out of my pocket as I'm going for my phone or all these things. So you want to also really just keep that in mind as well, because these could be small indications of, we never know who could be potentially watching us. But these are things that individuals looking to do bad things could be trying to keep an eye out for. Somebody paying with cash, somebody having a large amounts of cash, if it's anywhere visible. And then also, as you're doing this, right, what's the best way that you can keep your items safe? Sometimes people just throw all the bags and different things in the back seat. But let's just say from one stop, you got to go someplace else and make another stop. Something you want to do is, can I put everything in the trunk? Because if it's out of sight and can't anyone see it, then that could also reduce the possibility, which could lead up to a vehicle break-in. So that's another thing just to keep in mind, is the amount of things that we have visible in our vehicles. And again, this is another one of those tips that not only applies to the holiday season right now, but this is something that could be used and applied all year long. Because in different areas, vehicle break-ins can be an issue. And when you do an investigation and gather more information, you find out that the individual might have left a laptop in the back seat, or a purse or some sort of bag that could potentially have had something of value in it was just tucked under the seat, but not clearly out of sight. And these are really, having discussions and presentations as such are really just to help everybody remain mindful. It's never to, try to point the finger, but really also saying these are some of the things that we as law enforcement professionals, we see and we come across. So we want to do our best to educate and share that information all within the community. And one of the other things as well is leaving that car running. Now, depending on where you may reside, this may or may not be an issue, but in your sometimes the more metropolitan areas, what you can see is vehicles left running while a DoorDash or Uber Eats driver runs inside to secure a delivery and come back out and the vehicle is gone. And one of the things with that is, the indication when it comes to that is a vehicle double parked and they turn on the hazards. That seems to be the dead giveaway, the indication that, okay, this vehicle's left there, nobody's in it. Sometimes it's running, sometimes it's not. But that's something that could easily be solved by just taking an extra moment to cut off the car, take the keys with you, go grab what's necessary, whether you're doing an order, whether you're just picking up something for yourself. Just take that extra moment to secure the vehicle, lock it, have your keys with you, go get what you need and come back. I know sometimes in certain situations, people are under the impression that if they have the key fob with them, that the car is no good. And that's true to a degree. In some of the newer model cars now, yes, without the key fob close by, the cars may have a system or a security feature in place where the vehicle will stop once you get a certain distance from that key fob. But in some older model vehicles that have key fobs, you can drive that car all day long without the key fob anywhere near you, as long as you don't shut off the vehicle. So these are just some additional factors and things to be kept in mind, because again, these are all things that are taking place and that are happening. And more so around this time of year, holidays, you just see a lot more going on with people coming out, whether it's visiting, traveling, all these different things. So these are just the additionals to help keep everybody safe, and we don't want anybody's holiday season to be ruined. And most importantly, creating a plan when possible. And this is not one of the things that many people think of, but when I do different events as such and I bring this up, a lot of people, tell us like, hey, wow, that's actually a really good idea. I never really thought to come up with a plan. And the reason why coming up with a plan would be helpful because you're just pre-planning before you go out there to handle your business, whether it be traveling, shopping, or just doing everyday things, right? Having that plan on, okay, this is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. This is what I'm going to do once I do get there. And what what that essentially does is, in the event that something were to happen, you're already a step ahead, and it can kind of help you in what could potentially be a stressful situation or not. But pre-planning is really just helpful, and not necessarily from a law enforcement or something bad is going to happen standpoint, but it's just overall helpful in everyday life and allowing you to better operate smoothly. So plans are definitely helpful, especially how I have listed here. If you're going to be shopping with small children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, whomever, having that plan to say, hey, we're going to go to the mall. It's going to be super busy. If we get split up or somebody's phone dies and we can't get in touch with one another, we're going to meet back here at this particular location, right? Just know that no matter what, it might take me a little bit of time, but I'm going to meet you back here. We plan on leaving the mall at 8:45. And if you get here early, just stay close by this area. I'll be here at 8:45 once it's time to go. So that way it could, as I mentioned, reduce any type of panic or stress if something were to come up unexpectedly. Um, And our next focus with the online shopping and credit card safety, this is always a big one, no matter the time of year, whether it's holidays, non-holidays. This is really a big one because when it comes to credit card fraud and anything cyber related, the individuals who partake in these fraudulent activities seem to become more and more advanced as time goes on with the different tricks and scams that they try to pull. So most importantly, when shopping online, I recommend using a credit card over a debit card because one, those when you use a credit card, you have a different level of protection when you're going to report a transaction or something that's fraudulent. The financial institution acts and handles it a lot faster, and then also you're not tying up any of your personal money from 7 to 21 business days as they want to review and do all these different things. So when it comes to shopping online, a good practice is to use a credit card, and then of course once you make that purchase, just pay that amount from your everyday funds. And also monitoring our bank accounts, and looking at whatever apps are used for our financial institutions to be alert for something that doesn't exactly make sense, or for something that sticks out. And that way you just are better on top of all these day-to-day financial situations. And when it comes to this, one thing you'll see is individuals again using a form of text message or even calling over the phone to try to say, hey, we just got a notification that somebody tried to take $500 in cash out of an ATM. And then they'll start trying to get different information from you. And in situations as such, right, even if you have credit card or debit card alerts that come to your phone via text message, if somebody ever calls you portraying to be a bank or anybody out there, one of the best things to do is hang up, call that number right on back of that credit card, and speak to somebody that way, because now we know that, okay, I'm calling into the number that's directly associated with my financial institution. And the reason why I say go to the number on back of the debit card, because if you Google it, you can sometimes be rerouted to something fraudulent as well. So you want to just be mindful. Hey, this is my issue card from the bank. Let me call the number on back. Let me really see if somebody's trying to fraudulently take money out of my bank account and handle it that way. Because when they call us and try to get information, they want to start asking about, oh, can you verify your name and your address and your social, right? Your zip code. These are all the different things that are needed to, you know, access and do certain fraudulent activities for bank accounts. So you want to also be mindful of that. Is if you get that phone call of somebody stating that they're from the bank or wherever it might be, never feel a way to, oh, okay, well, you know what, thank you for letting me know, I'm gonna handle it. You call, contact, you know, the proper channels right away on your own. um be cautious also using public Wi-Fi services, you know, when you're out and about and you plan on, you know, handling financial, any type of financial institution transactions. Public Wi-Fi's aren't always the most secure, so that's just really something to be cautious of. At home, of course, it's a lot different, but you know, I don't want to just connect to the Wi-Fi in Starbucks and start paying bills or buying certain things, because that network isn't going to have the same level of security that it will in my own home. And I have also here about the secure, you know, payment methods. Excuse me. And you know what I mean by that is using PayPal's, credit cards, as mentioned. Try to refrain from, you know, if you're looking to purchase something, somebody saying, oh yes, you know, you have to Zelle me X, Y, and Z. We want to really try to refrain from using Zelles and Cash Apps or even Venmos unless you directly know this individual and, you know who they are, have dealt with them. Of course, that's a different story. But when it comes to making payments and securing type of transactions, we want to just try to refrain from those, because when you use methods as such, it's almost nearly impossible to try to recuperate any funds that you may have lost in a fraudulent way. So please, please, please be careful of that and just be mindful of that. And when it comes to emails and, you know, unrealistic deals that could be popping up and portrayed out there, that's something you want to be cautious of as well, right? Getting the email saying, hey, you know, Best Buy is selling 70-inch TVs today only for $25. That is just too good to be true. But again, you know, these are just different ways to try to really bait people and get people caught up in a web of fraudulent activities. And then also, you know, phishing emails are also a big thing now, depending on what sector you work in. That's something that many jobs also push out there of, you know, being mindful of clicking on different links when it comes to emails and making sure you, before you even respond or do anything further with the email, you can verify that the email is legit. So like, for example, if I sent somebody an email, it'll say Muhammad.lewis@dc.gov. But if somebody try to portray me fraudulently, it might say Muhammad.lewis at dc123.gov. And it's like, well, hold on, you know, this is a little fishy here. Or it's say, you know, Muhammad.lewis@gmail.com. It's like, well, nobody's going to handle or do official business using a Gmail account. It'll have, you know, that .gov or whatever company or whoever they might that this person is supposed to be representing. But there's different things that you can try to look for when it comes to, you know, these suspicious emails and anything along those lines. And the suspicious QR codes. This was something that was shared with me about how now they're also figuring out ways to use QR codes to gain and take information from people. So we know when it comes to that, you know, QR code, we could simply pick up our phone and scan something. If you're out and about and somebody says, "Oh yeah, you know, just scan the QR code and do X, Y, and Z," I would definitely be cautious of that. You know, if it's something that I can just really go and see and handle in person, I'll much rather do that rather than scanning a QR code. And in regards to, you know, safe meetups, so with this here, sometimes, you know, we'll use you know, Etsy's and Facebook marketplaces or Craigslist in different ways for purchases and exchanging, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, of course, we have a way to help mitigate anything going wrong with that. So whether, you know, you're here in DC or someplace else, right, one of the things I would do is try to avoid having somebody, a stranger, come to your home for a marketplace type of purchase. Of course, if it's something, you know, like a couch or a really large item that you can't just transport and meet somebody, you know, elsewhere, that's a different circumstance. But, you know, in that circumstance, try to have other people there with you just in case, you know, just as an extra layer of, you know, caution. But if it's an item that I can take and meet somebody in public, I would much rather go that route, right? a smaller TV or a device that I'm looking to sell to somebody, right? I'm going to go meet them in a public place. But then now we can take it a step further and, hey, I'll meet you here for this, purchase exchange, but meet me at my local police station, wherever that might be. You can meet in front, you can meet inside the lobby. And these are just different ways to help work as a deterrent, because now if somebody has ill intentions and you say, yeah, I'll sell you this iPhone, but I'll meet you in the police station lobby or in front of police, we can do it there. They might say, oh, no, no, why do we have to meet there? If you don't have ill intentions, meeting at a police station to conduct a transaction, that's beneficial for all parties, because that shows now that me as the seller, I'm not trying to, defraud you in any way. And then you as a purchaser, you don't have no ill intentions against me. And if that's not plausible to do a police station, any public area with many witnesses around, again, that's well lit and can also serve as a deterrent from something happening. Also keep that in mind. And when you do purchase these items, be sure to try to inspect it to the best of your ability. If it's an electronic device, make sure it cuts on, no screen cracks, all those different things. So that way you can ensure that you're getting the best for your money and you're not going to have any issues. And again, this comes down to now how I'm going to pay this individual. If cash is an option, of course, try to do that. If it's an option where it's thousands and thousands of dollars, then, that might be something where I might be a little bit hesitant. But, how could I pay this individual in a way in a way that's traceable, in a way that's going to leave a paper trail in the event something does go wrong? And most importantly, trusting your instinct, right? We all get that instinct of, something doesn't feel right here. I'm getting a weird vibe. I'm getting a weird feeling about this. Go with your instinct. If it doesn't feel right, it feels uncomfortable. Don't go against that urge. Don't go against that instinct. Listen to what your mind is telling you, your body is telling you, and maybe look for an alternative. But most importantly, I would say communication with trusted individuals, not just anybody, individuals that you trust, whether it be, loved ones, a really good friend, a neighbor, somebody who, has your best interest at heart as well. And let them know, hey, I'm going to purchase this off a marketplace. You want to help me out and, look this up so we can make sure that there's no issues, or this item really is what it is, or hey, I decided to sell my sofa. Are you free to come by with me, so that when these people come to get it, they can just take it and go and everything is all smooth. And I say this because I just recently sold a couch that I was getting rid of on a Facebook marketplace. So what I'm saying is the information that I'm providing, I've actually, these are things or methods that I've actually done myself. So I'm not just using it as I've taken it off our, the department website. I'm just repeating it verbatim, but these are also things that I myself practice in my personal life. And that communication does play a really big key into making sure that, you have that assistance when needed. You have somebody there, just in case something were to go wrong, really just communicating and being able to navigate through these situations. And that communication aspects, it really applies to a lot of these different things. Whether we have some of our elderly loved ones in our lives who may not be technology savvy, make sure we check in with them. Just make sure, like, hey, is everything all right? Or share with them information as such, to let them know about, these different scams and tricks that are trying to be pulled out there, just so that they have a level of awareness. And we want to make sure that we let them know they can always come to us as well, when they get a suspicious phone call or a suspicious text message, and all these different ways that people are trying out here to defraud people. There's just really so many. I was in another event, and they were talking about how there's also scammed and fraudulent ways, now that it's open enrollment, that people try to defraud individuals for Medicare and the things along those lines. And that was something that I never really gave much thought of course, in my position, and many things as such not really coming across our table in regards to that aspect. But that was something that I learned and said, wow, that's actually very intriguing that people are out here trying to pull, I guess you could consider it a level of insurance fraud and things along those lines. But just making sure we communicate with those we love, with those that we trust, sharing information, as such, to make sure that we could try to do our best to help, prevent things like this from taking place. Um, and I will turn it over to my other panelists.
Thank you. Officer Lewis, always the best. Thank you for coming this afternoon and sharing those tips of wisdom and safety with us. I just wanted to thank you for something that you said about trusting our gut. And without pointing the finger at anyone, I myself have noticed when when I've gone shopping that there seems to be a lot of strange individuals just hanging around the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And my gut tells me, move on, keep it moving. I don't need anything that um, much that I have to put my safety in jeopardy. But
Yes.
during this holiday season, we really all should be very vigilant and just use our eyes, our guts, and just trust your gut. So we want to jump into some questions here. I know I've got a few, and I saw some in the chat. And one of them that something else you said, you spoke to us about using a credit card.
Yes.
Well, one of the questions that I have is when you don't have a credit card, is it advisable to maybe buy a gift card or one of those cards, credit cards that you can preload, and use that? That's part A to my question. And part B is if I don't want to do that and I decide to use my ATM to do some online shopping or whatever, how do I safeguard my purchases and myself?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, that's actually a great question. So yes, for the part A, if a credit card is something that you don't have and you're able to go purchase a prepaid card or a gift card instead, that's great, because now that is, hey, I'm going to go spend this amount. I'm going to load exactly this amount on there. Once I use it, it's done. I don't have to worry about anything else. So that would be, a great thing. And it's funny you say that, because I have a young child. He likes to buy things on PlayStation and Roblox, X, Y, and Z. So myself and my grandmother will get him a prepaid gift card with an exact amount. And that way we don't have to worry about no surprise purchases later on down the line or any oopsies mistakes. So that really is a key thing. And that's something that you most definitely can do. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers here, but I'm going to speak to the ladies. I am guilty, and I'm sure other ladies are guilty of having their handbag, a whole bunch of other bags and more bags. And then you go into a store, maybe
Mm-hmm.
a grocery store, and you have a cart and you throw those recent purchases in that bag, but you're busy looking in the aisles and so forth and on. And I know that's a no-no. So what do you advise me to do? Do I
So,
go
and
back
then
to
I'll answer
do I
your
go
part
back to
B
my
before I
car?
forget as well, too,
Okay.
of your last question. So the part B, if you do use your debit card, which again, I'm human, I've done that myself. I'm double checking, making sure I'm ordering from a place that I know specifically. So whether it be Amazon, I would just always double check. If you're using the Amazon app directly, then 9 out of 10 times you'll be good. But if you're doing anything online like a Nike, a Walmart, a Target, just double checking, websites, you're in the proper places as you're looking up in that. And
Yep.
in that web bar, it's not saying anything funny or something that you don't understand. And once you make the purchase, just periodically monitor your regular bank account to make sure that, hey, wait, $10 in Hawaii, like that's really odd. I'm nowhere near that. So if that's something that you do, just double check it to make sure.
Have
Um,
great advice there. Thank you.
of course. And then now your current question. So yeah, in that sense, right? If you have the time to want to go to the car and secure those items away, that's something that you can do. If you're going to keep them in your cart, just look at really the optics of it. Like, okay, I have 5 bags. Am I able to reduce it and start, doubling things up to shrink the size of things that I do have? Do I have a type of bag that I can make sure is closed and zipped? So, as I'm still browsing around and looking, can't nobody just walk by, try to swipe something out and keep going. Because realistically, right? Let's say you've been in there all day, moving around, shopping. We 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 sometimes get a little lazy. It's like, I don't really feel like doing it. I'm just gonna go ahead and continue on. But in those moments, right, what are some of the little quick things that we can do to help mitigate that? So, like I said, if you could shrink things down into, one overall bag and reduce the number of things that you have that way, something with the zipper or any type of additional extra layer of security to help with that. So that way you can continue on without us having to feel like, oh, this is an inconvenience for me. Because again, that happens, right? Like we all have those moments where sometimes we feel like doing something extra just might be inconvenience and it's only going to take a second or two, but
Yeah, yeah, no, guilty is charged here. So I'm going to ask, are there ideal hours to go shopping?
yes. So especially on the weekend, if you can go out that early afternoon, maybe early morning, 10, 11 o'clock when some of the stores are just opening up. So now, the sun is out. I'm getting it nice and early where it's most, most crowded. I wouldn't say, well, more people out, right? And that way you can get back home at a decent time to still have much of your day to enjoy doing different things. Now, yes, there are circumstances where, hey, look, I have to go out, 5, 6, 7 o'clock because something came up or this is just how things worked out today. And if you're in that situation, think about the tips that we discussed as okay, well, I'm gonna leave the house a little bit later. What's my plan? What am I gonna do to make sure as I go out and travel and shop and do all these different things? What plan do I have in place? All right, I know I know where I'm going. I go to this place, quite often. I know the parking situation could be funny, but I know that the entire area is well lit, so that's not something that I have to worry about, right? Just give yourself a little small pre-walkthrough plan. It doesn't have to be anything super long and drawn out, but just have a mental checklist. Okay, this is where I'm going to go. I know, where I'm going to be looking to park, going right in to get X, Y, and Z, and I'm coming back out and going about my business. But if you can do those, earlier times, especially around this time of year, I would definitely recommend that to be the best.
Okay, and thank you. Just a comment here. I think everybody should let their loved one or friend know where you're going. I mean, we tend to say we don't want folks in our business,
Mhm.
but this time of year, any time of year, I find it to be just another layer of security for myself, just to say, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to the store," or when I'm leaving work, "Hey, Dad, I'm on my way home from work."
Yes.
It may not stop anything, but at least somebody knows that I was on my way home from work or that I'm headed over to the mall. So thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
Now, if I'm in the mall, let's say I'm in the mall and I'm shopping late, this evening or whenever I may go, will mall security walk me to my car? And can I call the police? And regardless of where I might be in the country, will the police come and escort me to my car if I feel unsafe?
Yeah, so for law enforcement, that's generally going to be a yes, no matter where you are, because again, safety is always number one. So I can say, I can confidently say for law enforcement, if you call and say, "Hey, I'm at this location, this is the situation. Can you send an officer out for these reasons?" When they get there, "Hey, officer, this is what I saw. This is what's going on out there. I don't feel safe. Can you just, give me 2 minutes, escort me to my vehicle that way I can go about my business?" Absolutely. Because that right there, you just took a step to help prevent something from possibly happening. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. If we could be there beforehand and be a preventative measure before something happens, absolutely. Now, when it comes
Okay.
to mall security, that could be 50-50.
Mm.
Some security might say, "Oh, yeah, absolutely not a problem." Some might say, "Oh, no, unfortunately, I can't. I'm not allowed to leave the confines of this mall." So in that area for them, it's really just going to be a 50-50 thing. But as I mentioned, when it comes to, law enforcement, because we'd rather be, proactive and do something preventative from something happening, we would most definitely, take that few minutes to assist with that rather than being called there for somebody being harmed, whether it be, robbery, any type of assault, something along those lines.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to speak to when you spoke to robbery, so I'm going to ask about carjacking.
Hmm.
Is carjacking prevalent during the holidays? And if unfortunate, if one is unfortunate to be carjacked, should they just what should they do?
Okay. So in regards to that, it's not typically just only prevalent during the holidays. That's something that kind of happens all year round.
Mm,
And from incidents that we've seen on those, they're really more so calculated, right? They're whether they're watching, or whether they notice, okay, you just circled the block, maybe you're looking for parking and you happen to park in an area where it's like, oh man, I should have probably parked someplace different. So those are really more so calculated. And in those events, and I believe I said this last year when we did one of these, no no object, no piece of property is worth anybody's life. That's first and foremost number one, right? A car could be replaced, a phone, X, Y, and Z. Those material things could be replaced. In the event that that does happen, and somebody says, "Hey, give me your vehicle and your keys. I have a gun, X, Y, and Z." Whether you see it or not, it's your life is not worth the fight of that car, right? Insurance company, they'll clear it out, reimburse you, whatever the case may be. So in that event, if threats are being made to harm you, against you, the best thing to do, just give it up. In that moment, it's stressful. They're gonna come ask you, hey, do you remember what the person looked like? Did you see anything that stuck out when they were telling you to hand over the cards and the keys, etc.? Give that information. There are times where these vehicles are later on located, not always in the best of conditions, but most importantly, the safety of the individual is really what matters. So, even whether it's a carjacking or robbery, somebody says, hey, give me X, Y, and Z. I have a gun in my pocket or I have a knife. By all
mm,
means, here, take them. Because we know when it comes to cards and credit cards, those electronic items, you could lock them and have them inoperable just a few moments after. Same thing with a cell phone. You could have a cell phone locked and completely erased where it has no value anyway. But yeah, just be mindful that no life is worth any material item.
okay, thank you. Someone asked, Officer Lewis, since human trafficking is a big issue and people can be more emboldened in crowded public spaces, like during holiday shopping, what are some suggestions being alert, safe, and even request help if needed?
So in regards to that one, I'm an advocate of, depending on where you live, right? Self-defense items such as a pepper spray, a taser are all perfectly legal. So I would definitely look in, to those items as well, number one. And when it comes to the human trafficking, I've seen videos around social media about, different ways or things that are being done out there. So like, for example, we'll use, a public, very crowded parking lot. They say that what they'll do is you'll see like a zip tie on your door handle, or you'll see something stuck on your window around your vehicle that could potentially be, laced with some harmful substance that could drug you, or, kind of take you out of it, to the point where you can lose your bearings. So I've seen things about that. Here, particularly in DC, we haven't come across things of that sort. But I would always say, just really be mindful of that. If I come out to my car and I notice on my driver door there's a zip tie, right? Naturally, we might, look to, hey, what's this? Touch it, kind of take it off. But they say in those circumstances, if you're able to get into your vehicle without having to touch it and get to a safe place, whether that place be home, or you're going to drive the car to the police station, etc., do those things. And the uh the overall awareness, right? The being aware of our surroundings is really what's key. I remember before somebody, asked a question about, well, what are things that we can do to be better aware of our surroundings? And it's really just being attentive and alert to what's going on around you. Try not to be caught up in phone conversations or text messaging and things like that. You don't have to be any type of specially trained law enforcement or military just to have better awareness of what's going on around you. So I would say that that is really the key, in addition to the other things that I mentioned, wanting to look into different self-defense mechanisms based upon wherever it is that wherever it is that you reside, to have those on you as well. But just keep in the back of your mind, like, hey, if I walk into my car and there's $100 sitting on my windshield wiper, like that's fairly odd. Or there's money stuck in my driver's side window, like like that, that's odd. Do I really want to touch that? What could be going on here? So just be mindful of those things.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Our next question asks, what are some safeguards to purchasing tampered gift cards in a regular store?
So with that, when you pick up those gift cards, a lot of the times they have like a security ceiling on them, to where when you go to purchase it, the only thing you can see is the barcode. And now what stores are doing, some stores are doing as well, is especially with the Visa or the American Express gift cards, they have them secure behind like a clear glass window. So that way, a store associate has to come and get you the gift card, and you go to register and purchase it. So I would just be, mindful of looking at, make sure it hasn't been tampered with. I know with some of the gift cards, such as ones to restaurants or different food chains, are just out in the open. And with those, a lot of the times, it is okay to make that purchase and make sure. But when it comes to the dollar value ones, as I mentioned, the Visa, the American Express, those I would just double check to make sure, like, okay, you know what, it's sealed, it hasn't been tampered with. I can go ahead and make the purchase. And then also too, you could, purchase those online as well, directly from, Amex or any type of verified place, where you don't have to worry about potentially coming across. I know that's kind of funny, me talking about purchasing a gift card online, but again, like, these are in the age that we're headed in today's time, everything is somewhat turning digitally and electronically. But just double check the packaging, make sure it hasn't been tampered with, or a toy with in any way.
Okay, and then how important is it then to hold on to your receipt?
Yeah, so I would definitely keep the receipt up until whoever you may gift it to, or once you use it, has already used it and everything is done, because with the receipt will also sometimes have the full card number, just in case you've misplaced the actual physical one that you purchased. You can sometimes refer back to the receipt to tell you the card balance and things of that sort. So I would just hold the receipt up until that gift card was used for what it was meant to be used for.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone asked, are you aware that kids are gambling on Roblox?
No, no, I've heard different stories about Roblox and some of the dangers on there, but I haven't heard about the gambling in regards to the Roblox. Now, being a parent of a child who does Roblox and other video games, in that area, I do constant check-ins. Like, I do random check-ins. If he's on the game, I'll come in and, oh, who's this you might be talking to, or do you have a chat or something going on? I'm one of the more nosy parents. So when it comes to those games and things of that sort, really keeping the kids on their toes, popping in, seeing what they're doing, asking them questions. If you hear them kind of, talking back and forth, hey, who's this that you're talking to? Is this a friend from school, or is this somebody, online? Really going about it that way, because I've heard some scary things in regards to Roblox and platform games such as Minecraft, where individuals can use these as areas where they look to do harmful and just wrong things.
Okay, so for those of us who may not know, Roblox is an online game.
Hmm.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I didn't know what Roblox, I know what a Roblox is, but I didn't know that it was an online game. So thank you very much for letting me know. I want to turn a little bit to Amazon delivery. Amazon is very interesting. And they don't always, depending on the delivery person, they don't always deliver at your door.
Nope.
And sometimes the packages might be somewhere in your community, and
Hmm.
and I'm guilty of this one. I'm looking forward to my package, and it's in my neighborhood somewhere. And then I go around and I look for it, and then I find it, and by the grace of God, I'm okay. Then there's that other side of my instincts that said I should have left that package right there until the next day.
Hmm.
What do I do? What
So
should we do?
in that instance, know your community first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I've experienced something similar to where packages, I get notification, oh, it's delivered. I open my door, it's nothing there. You have to, maybe go down and check this entrance or check there. So know your community. If you know, hey, my area is pretty secure. I can go and check, X, Y, and Z entrances without any issues. That's totally fine. If it's something that isn't super high value and you're okay with leaving it out there until the next day, if you reside in an apartment building or a condo building, if you're like, hey, I can leave it there until tomorrow, it'd be okay. That's also fine. But yeah, Amazon is it's a crapshoot when it comes to Amazon. As you mentioned, delivery this time could be at your door. The next time it could be someplace, who knows where. But yeah, in that instance, know your area, know your neighborhood, and really know the value of what it is that you ordered. If you go to retrieve and it's not there, hey, it was just a special toothpaste that I liked. I'll get reimbursed, no big deal. But if it's something maybe more important, you might want to go grab it. You might want to just take somebody with you for the quick walk, things along those lines.
Okay, and that would apply if the Amazon delivery person calls after hours. I don't know what Amazon's core hours of delivery are, but I have received calls from the driver to say, "Hey, I'm here,"
Mm-hmm.
and so the advice again is to take someone with me, or maybe tell the driver if I feel uncomfortable, leave it outside and get the package the next morning. Would that be the
Yes,
appropriate thing? Okay.
correct.
All right. All right. Well, I'm going to put that into play for me. Now, one thing we didn't speak to in the presentation is food delivery. I know a
Mm,
lot of us this time of year, every throughout the year, but maybe this time of year we have our groceries delivered. We might have party favors, foods, etc., delivered. And I have noticed on occasion the delivery drivers coming in pairs,
mm-hmm.
or or the person that the picture that it might say John is delivering, person who shows up isn't John. And that gives me pause, and I'm not inclined to walk up to that car.
Yeah.
Should it give me pause?
Yes, especially if on the app it's showing an individual and the individual who shows up is somebody completely different. That should absolutely give you pause. Um, when it comes to deliveries, I'll be completely honest. I'm not a huge fan. I'm the type to, if I can, I'll try to go get it myself. But I also understand that's not everybody's situation. So with that being said, if they can leave it someplace where I can maybe watch from a distance, like, hey, go ahead, you can leave it at this particular door, and somebody will come out and retrieve it. They drop it. I wait for them to drive off. I can go grab my stuff and carry on. That's number one. Number two, if it's an individual where it's like, okay, well, this was supposed to be this person, but they don't look alike. I would also figure out what reporting methods that app or delivery service might have to, make them a known that, hey, this person is portraying to be somebody different, or this person has let somebody else use their delivery account, because that's not supposed to be accepted on those delivery services as well.
Okay. And so when we order food from our grocer,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the grocer is a very nice person and they might want to help you to carry the bags inside. My first instinct is to say, no, that's okay. Thank you very much. I don't allow strangers in my home.
Mm-hmm.
But someone might let a person in their home. Should they let a stranger in their home that might be delivering groceries?
I'm gonna say no. these are moments where you get a free pass to come off as a jerk if somebody might view you that way. Because, again, I don't know you. I'm using a service. Now, if you live in a single family home, hey, listen, you could just take it out your car. You can leave it right here on my step. Hey, okay. I got somebody inside who's gonna come help me bring it, no worries. If you live in an apartment building or type of building where it might be different, I would instruct them, hey, you could just bring them and leave them here in the lobby. Don't worry about it. I'll be able to get them from here, right? Let's not, invite somebody who we're unaware of, somebody who we don't know into, our safe space. And like I said, that's one of those moments where you could, have a pass to be a jerk in a sense. That's one of those moments we tell people, hey, if somebody's trying to panhandle you on the street, you could just walk by, zero acknowledgement, and kind of carry on. You get a free pass in that sense.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions in the chat, it doesn't look like we do. I want to ask you, Officer Lewis, for any parting advice. I love that you say we get a free pass to be a jerk. We don't have to respond. That's great. That we want to just rely on our instincts. Anything else that you'd like to leave us with during this holiday season and for the new year coming?
Yeah, so most importantly, don't feel that you have to be restricted or confined to staying home or not being able to go out and enjoy life, right? At the end of the day, nobody's just going to stay in their 6 foot world or stay in between the walls of their homes, wherever it is that you may live. You're going to go out and do things. I encourage it, right? We need interaction with others. We need to be out and about and, be busy and partake in certain things. Just with that being said, take a second to think about how you want to go about accomplishing that, right? How do I want to do it? Um, who do I want to let know? These small things that could take a minute or two can make big differences that we may not specifically see in that moment. But, who knows that by us just communicating or pre-planning something out, how we might have positively changed, our day moving forward. So I would really just leave everybody with that is, don't take this information as a scare and to make you afraid. Really see it as awareness and eye opening to say, wow, I wasn't aware that these things were going on. But now that you know it, now that you have the information, share it with others, you know, um, keep others up to speed with something that you may learn, any new things going on, like how one of the participants said about the Roblox gambling, right? Information sharing is cool. It's a good thing, but just use it to your advantage and use it to add to your tool belt when you step out there and want to go look to enjoy life.
Okay. Perfect segue. Thank you very much for joining us again and during this holiday season. We hope you will come back and come back soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our audience for your wonderful questions. We like to wish you a great holiday season and a happy new year. And I give you back your afternoon.
I
Have a good
appreciate you all.
afternoon.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. There's a survey at the end of the webinar. Please.
Thank you, Angie.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
bye-bye.